You've heard the stories. The cursed pizzerias, the missing children, the haunted animatronics. But what if I told you some of those myths are based on real events, and others? Total fiction. I'm Walt, and today we're breaking down the darkest FNAF myths, separating what's real, what's fake, and what's way too creepy to ignore. Because sometimes, the truth is scarier than the game.
I always quack.
Before we start, a huge thanks to our channel members for making this possible. You're the absolute best. Number 8. Myth. Animatronic attacks. Imagine accepting a night shift at a pizza place, and then they casually drop this on you. Oh, by the way, the animatronics get a little quirky at night. And I'm not talking quirky like karaoke night at the break room. I mean quirky like we're gonna stuff you into a suit and send you straight to the afterlife kinda quirky. That's pretty much the whole premise of Five Nights at Freddy's, and it brings us to our first myth. Killer animatronics. Every time we post a video with animatronics, someone drops a comment like, didn't they learn anything from FNAF? When Luz and Salco were building me, people were literally writing that under the announcement post. And surprise, they're still here. So let's get into it. Has an animatronic ever actually attacked a person in real life? And no, before you say anything, the time I knocked out Scrumpy Lee doesn't count. The real answer is no. Animatronics are built to be extremely safe. They've got proximity sensors, automatic shutdown systems, reinforced internal structure, soft exteriors, and most importantly, they can't think for themselves. They just follow commands. So no animatronic has ever ended a human life. Myth completely debunked. Now, I know what you're thinking, but Walt, wasn't there a fatal accident involving a robot in Germany in 2015? Yes, that did happen, but that was an industrial robot, not an animatronic. Totally different world. If you want a video about killer robots, drop a skull emoji in the comments. And while we're here, there is one real-life case that often gets lumped into this myth. The tragic death of Deborah Gale Stone. Back in 1974, Deborah was working at Disneyland's America Sings attraction. One night during the ride's rotation, she was accidentally crushed between a moving platform and a wall. It was a mechanical accident, not an animatronic malfunction, and it led to major safety changes in the parks. So now you know. Killer animatronics, still just a myth. Number 7. Myth. Animatronic bites. Birthdays are supposed to be happy, right? Well, apparently no one told the poor kid in the infamous bite of '83. Because when your older brother and his bully friends think it's funny to shove your head a little too close to Fredbear's open jaw, there's only one way that ends. Clamp. And the next thing you know, you're playing the harp in the clouds.
Was that the bite of '87?
No, dear Markiplier, that wasn't the bite of '87. That was the bite of '83. Or as some fans call it, the Big Bite. That one moment created the myth that real animatronics can bite people. And if I had $1 for every time someone commented that on our videos, I'd be rich by now, sipping a smoothie on a beach with my lovely Lilybell. Oh, right, back to the myth. The truth is, no real animatronic has ever bitten anyone. Not me, not any of my friends. It's just not how we're built. But there was one incident that got kind of close. In 1990, at the Jaws ride in Universal Studios, Florida, a guest named Anthony Salamone had a very close encounter with Bruce, the animatronic shark. Anthony was enjoying the ride when Bruce lunged out of the water a little too enthusiastically. The sudden movement scared Anthony so badly that he fell and suffered minor injuries, not from a bite, but from the fall itself. Universal ended up tightening their safety protocols after that, and probably sent Anthony a lifetime supply of shark-free therapy. And okay, yes, there are some animatronics specifically built to bite, like Sharkzilla, made by the Mythbusters, which was literally designed to chomp stuff. Or more recently, Yarnaby, a creation by the Wicked makers who can eat people, but only as a fun Halloween decoration. So, bottom line, no animatronic in the real world has ever bitten a person. Myth officially debunked. Number 6 myth. FNAF invented animatronic pizzerias. Okay, show of hands, who here has ever dreamed of opening their own animatronic pizza place? No one? Just me? Well, based on our comment section, apparently a lot of you have. Everyone wants their own Freddy Fazbear's Pizza or Mega Pizzaplex. But let's be real, did Five Nights at Freddy's actually invent the idea of animatronic pizzerias? I think Aaron Fechter and Nolan Bushnell might have something to say about it. And trust me, they wouldn't be too happy if you thought FNAF was the original. Back in the 1980s, thanks in part to the huge popularity of Disney's Country Bear Jamboree, we saw the rise of companies like Showbiz Pizza and Pizza Time Theater. Their idea was revolutionary at the time. Full-on animatronic bands performing live music while kids ate pizza and blew through their tokens in the arcade. That's where legends like the Afire explosion and the Pizza Time players were born. The history of those companies is long, chaotic, and genuinely fascinating. If you want to know the full story, check out our video on it. Now, even though there's no official confirmation, it's pretty obvious that Scott Cawthon, creator of FNAF, was heavily inspired by these places. I mean, you don't need to be a detective to connect the dots. So no, FNAF didn't invent the idea of animatronic pizza restaurants, but it absolutely revived the concept and made it cool again. And to be honest, even if some people won't admit it, FNAF did a lot to put animatronics back on the cultural radar. People suddenly cared again. They wanted to know how we worked. They wanted to see more. And in case you hadn't noticed, I'm the #1 fan of these mechanical wonders. I still secretly hope I get to show up as an Easter egg in a FNAF movie one day. Hey, a duck can dream. But for now, one thing's for sure. This myth, fully debunked. Number 5. Myth. Children trapped inside animatronics. This next myth is by far the darkest and most disturbing on the list. And honestly, it's the one that makes me the angriest. Every time someone asks me if there's a child trapped inside of me, it's not just awkward, it's deeply disturbing. Seriously? Who'd even think that's okay to ask? Anyway, here's the explanation behind the myth. According to the legend, on a tragic night, the infamous purple guy, aka William Afton, did something awful. Wearing his Spring Bonnie animatronic suit, he lured 5 children into a back room. Then, using a knife, well, let's just say he turned them into lemon slices. He supposedly hid their bodies inside 5 animatronics: Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and finally, Golden Freddy. Their souls then possessed the animatronics and came back for revenge. But we'll get to that part in a later myth. This particular myth claims that real animatronics like me have actual unalive children hidden inside them. Now, let me give you a few clear reasons why this is total nonsense. First, look at me. I'm tiny. You couldn't even fit a baby inside of this chassis. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Okay, Walt, you might be small, but what about bigger animatronics? Sure, some might look big enough, but think about how absurd it would be to hide a body inside one. Who would be dumb enough to stash a body inside a theme park attraction? And more importantly, how would they even get it there without anyone noticing? That would make them the dumbest criminal on Earth. Also, let's be real, a body hidden inside a machine would start decomposing real fast. The smell would be so awful, it'd clear out the park within hours. No one would just ignore that. Not employees, not guests, nobody. And there's zero evidence, no reports, no documents, no confirmed cases of anything like this ever happening. None. So yeah, no dead humans inside real animatronics. Totally debunked. But interestingly, there is a real case that gets pretty close to this level of creepy. The bizarre story of Elmer McCurdy. McCurdy was an American outlaw who died in 1911. His body was embalmed, then passed around for decades as a carnival and sideshow attraction. People thought it was just a wax figure or a prop. Until 1976, when a film crew was shooting at an amusement park in California. A technician accidentally broke off his arm and found real human bones inside. Imagine thinking it's a mannequin and realizing you're holding someone's actual arm. Yeah, no thanks. So maybe no child was ever trapped inside an animatronic, but what happened with Elmer McCurdy is terrifying enough on its own. And that leads us right to the next myth, one that's even creepier: possessed animatronics. Number 4. Myth. Possessed animatronics. Remember when I told you those kids got their revenge? Well, they didn't just get it. They gave William Afton a very unpleasant taste of his own medicine. You see, Afton tried to hide inside an animatronic suit called Spring Bonnie. But here's the catch. It was a spring lock suit. That means it used internal mechanisms, metal springs, to switch between suit mode and animatronic mode. And during one unlucky moment, or let's be honest, instant karma, those spring locks snapped shut while he was still inside. The result? He got trapped in the suit and became the infamous Spring Trap. And that leads us to our next myth, but not just yet. First, let's talk about this myth. Are real-life animatronics ever actually possessed? I can almost guarantee you, no. But if you've ever seen our animatronics that look straight out of hell list, watch it during daylight, trust me, you might start to wonder. Take the Ayuwoki for example. A lot of people believe this terrifying animatronic figure would show up at night whispering his creepy little hee-hee. But in reality, it was just a fan-made animatronic created by Thomas Rengstorff. Nothing supernatural, just really good design and extremely questionable vibes. Still, there are some weird cases out there that people swear are paranormal. There's the famous possessed Santa Claus animatronic from Guadalajara, Mexico. According to witnesses, it started moving and speaking on its own, despite being unplugged. Then there's the Afire explosion documentary incident, where one of the animatronics reportedly made strange sounds even though it wasn't connected to any control system. And okay, she's technically not an animatronic, but we can't ignore the most famous possessed doll of all time, Annabelle, who inspired a whole horror movie franchise. Still creepy. Now look, you're probably gonna laugh at me, but honestly, I can't completely rule it out. My rational side says no way, but my duck brain, it says let's not mess with ghosts just in case. So for now, we're leaving this one as myth officially unsolved. And speaking of terrifying, our next myth might be the most dangerous of them all, the spring lock suit.
Number 3. Myth. The spring lock suits.
Connection terminated. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm afraid you've been misinformed.
This one's a big one, and I get asked about it all the time. Walt, do you have a spring lock suit? The answer? Absolutely not, thank you very much. In case you're not familiar, a spring lock suit is a special type of animatronic that can be used both as a robot and worn by a human. The catch, and the horror, is in the internal mechanisms, metal parts that hold everything in place when someone's inside. But if those spring locks loosen because of sweat, movement, or even humidity, crunch. The suit snaps shut like a medieval torture trap, and, well, you're not walking out of that one. Why would anyone want to make or wear something that dangerous on purpose? It makes no sense. The lawsuits would rain down like free pizza at a failed animatronic show. Now don't get me wrong, real animatronic suits exist, and some of them are amazing. There's the ones built by Stan Winston Studios for Pumpkinhead, or the classic Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle suits made by Jim Henson's Creature Shop. And while Jim Henson himself is no longer with us, his legendary company is still going strong. In fact, they were the ones behind the animatronic suits for the official FNAF movie. And guess what? Not a single one of those suits used spring locks. They all used modern, safe systems, remote controls, servos, telemetry, the kind of stuff you actually find in the real industry. There are hundreds of animatronic suits used in movies and theme parks, and soon we'll be making a full video about the coolest ones out there. So yeah, this myth looks like a clean debunk, but surprise, there's a twist. Spring locks aren't used in the industry because that would be mechanical and legal suicide. But that hasn't stopped some independent creators from trying. Take our friend Technofur, for example. He's dedicated his whole YouTube channel to experimenting with this exact concept. He's built a functioning spring lock style suit, but with every possible safety measure to avoid ending up like, well, you know who. On the other hand, there's DownloadCont, another YouTuber who went even further. He built a suit with real compression mechanisms and actually tested it just to show what would happen to the human body if it failed. Spoiler alert, you don't want to be inside when it does. So the final verdict, this myth is semi-debunked. The springlock suit don't exist in any official productions, and they never will for obvious reasons. But technically, with enough creativity and a complete disregard for personal safety, yeah, it's possible to build one. So let me ask you this. Do you think these suits are a brilliant idea, or are you like me and think they're an unnecessary death trap just waiting to become an urban legend? Number 2. Myth. Sentient animatronics. This myth might not be so far from becoming reality. It's closely related to the previous myth about possessed animatronics, but this time we're not talking ghosts or vengeful souls. We're talking about animatronics with actual self-awareness. Machines that can think, make decisions, and act on their own. More like Glitch Trap, minus the paranormal stuff. And just to be clear, this idea didn't start with FNAF. It's a classic sci-fi concept. Writers like Isaac Asimov were exploring sentient robots decades ago in their novels, and we've seen it in movies like Terminator, where an AI called Skynet takes over the world and, well, we all know how that ends. And while it may sound like science fiction, we're really not that far off. Today, AI is already replacing creative jobs, which for artists and creators like us is kind of a nightmare. That's why we're very clear about this. On this channel, we don't use AI to replace human artists. Everything here is made with real talent and a few exposed wires. Now, back to the myth. As of today, no artificial intelligence is truly sentient. There are some super advanced robots out there, like Amika, with insanely realistic facial expressions, or the robots from Boston Dynamics that can run, jump, and even open doors, but none of them can actually think for themselves. They just follow programming. Just like animatronics, we mimic life, but we don't live. So for now, this myth is debunked, but just barely, because if history has taught us anything, it's that today's sci-fi is tomorrow's tech. And hey, shh, don't tell anyone, but between you and me, Lilybell and I might be the first sentient animatronics in the world. Or just try not to start a panic. Number 1. Myth. The missing children at Chuck E. Cheese. Okay, this is the myth. The one that refuses to die. The one that always shows up in the comments like, "Did you know FNAF is based on a true story? It happened at a Chuck E. Cheese, bruh." And yes, I've heard it 1,000 times. And the answer is, no, bruh, it didn't. The theory goes like this. Back in the 80s or 90s, 5 children disappeared inside a Chuck E. Cheese. And that's what supposedly inspired Five Nights at Freddy's. Some even claim the kids' bodies were found inside the animatronics. But like we already covered in earlier myths, that never happened. What's actually interesting is why so many people believed it. FNAF came out at a perfect time, where places like Chuck E. Cheese already had that eerie vibe. Old animatronics, flickering lights, half-empty party rooms. It was the perfect setting for creepy speculation. And then the internet did what it does best. Creepypastas, viral memes, dramatic YouTube videos, and of course, your classmate who watched way too much MatPat. And yes, MatPat, we miss you, man. Now, is there any real-life case that comes close? Just one. The 1993 shooting in Aurora, Colorado, where a former employee attacked 5 people at a Chuck E. Cheese. It was a tragedy, no doubt about that, but there were no missing children, no hidden bodies, and absolutely nothing involving animatronics. Outside of that, no reports, no police files, no confirmed cases. This myth is just pure internet legend. Conclusion. FNAF isn't based on real events. There were never any missing kids in pizzerias with animatronics. This myth was born online and stuck around because sometimes made-up stories sound more believable than the truth. So yeah, completely debunked. And if you still don't believe me, how about this? You, Lilybell, and I spend one night in an old-school Chuck E. Cheese. We'll put Scrumpy Lee on night guard duty since he keeps spreading fake news, and just set up a little prank to teach him a lesson. Just a fun, harmless sleepover. Nothing scary, nothing haunted, just us proving once and for all that Chuck E. Cheese isn't some cursed FNAF death trap. It's safe. You'll be fine. Worst case, you'll get stuck with Scrumpy's suspicious pizza, and maybe some mushrooms he definitely shouldn't have used. So, what do you say? Flashlight in hand, or hiding under the table already? And that's a wrap. Let me know if you like this new video format. And if you want to see more content like this where we break down myths and separate fact from fiction. And hey, as tradition goes, if you made it to the end, drop a comment saying "last of the real ones" so we can shout you out in the end screen squad. You real ones are the absolute best. We love you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. And remember, we always quack back.